Hello and welcome to the Work Inspired podcast. I'm your host, George Lucas Pfeiffer, and on today's episode, we're so fortunate to have a couple in the studio who I've known for decades. Jane and Glenn Bullock are the Chief Purpose Officer and CEO at Antunes. They're here to tell us how they've created a successful organization that has a culture that puts people first, is purpose-driven at its core, and is sustainable on multiple levels. It's going to be a great conversation with two amazing people. Work Inspired starts right now. Jane, Glenn, thank you for being here. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you both. We've known each other for quite a long time. I think you must be, of all the guests we've had on the show, my longest relationship.
Oh, great.
I think our families met like 35 years ago or something like that.
Yes.
Something like that. So decades.
Yeah.
This conversation has been decades in the making. But
30, I think it's 38 years ago.
38?
Yeah, 38.
Let's start by you telling us your professional story.
Not to go into a whole lot of detail, but so I grew up in Ohio, and I graduated from the University of Cincinnati with a BS in education. My first teaching job was at a small Catholic school in Hamilton, Ohio, and that's where I met Jane. And started teaching there, and started taking some computer programming classes after teaching, and then I took programming classes at Miami University of Oxford. And then I knew raising a family on a teacher's salary was going to be pretty hard, so that's why I started taking the courses. And then, fortunately, I married Jane, and after I married Jane, her dad asked me to join the company. So after 2 years of teaching, Jane and I moved back up to Chicago. Or I moved to Chicago, Jane moved back to Chicago. I started actually an informal management training class in the company at Antunes, and continued taking courses in Chicago, and I eventually received my executive business degree at Northwestern Kellogg. At work, I continued to develop my skill sets in the management training cycle by spending approximately 6 months in all the different departments at the facility. Went into accounting, engineering, customer service, technical service, sales, IT. So all the different departments, I pretty much had a well-rounded education. After my management training, I started running the controls division and was responsible for the P&L of that division. And then as the company continued to grow, I eventually became CEO and started running the company from there. Awesome. So that's kind of how my background started.
Very cool. Jane?
Yeah, so thank you for having us. I'm actually Jane Antunes Bullock. My dad started the company just a little before I was born. So I grew up in the western suburbs, and my dad really wanted me to join the company. My brother was destined to join the company. I said, nope, I'll never join the company. I want to be a teacher. So I did become a teacher. As Glenn said, we met in Ohio. As beautiful as Southern Ohio is, I really wanted to get back to the Chicago area. Mm-hmm. So eventually we had 4 children, and I was able to stay home most of the time. But when our youngest was 4, Glenn asked if I could just join him, help out a little bit. And I was part-time, and even my mom said, no, don't do it, you'll get sucked in. But I have to say, 32 years later, I love the fact that I'm sucked in. And I've generally been support, mostly with sales, doing a variety of things, always kind of looking for what do we have as a need in the company. And it's been great. I have no regrets that I did it. Also able to have a lot of flexibility.
Wonderful. So, family business. Tell our listeners a little bit about Antunes. What do you do? What's kind of the company's culture like? What makes you unique and special?
So as a company, we're a manufacturer. So we manufacture cooking and water filtration equipment for the global food service restaurant industry. We have 3 manufacturing facilities around the world. We have our corporate office is here in Carroll Stream, and then we have an office, a manufacturing facility in Chennai, India. And then we also have a manufacturing facility in Suzhou, China. We have 3 sales offices around the world. So we have a sales office in Nairobi, Kenya. Madrid, Spain, and Shanghai, China. And, some of the uniques that we have as a company, and really what sets us apart from our competitors, is our purpose-driven culture, our customer-centric innovative solutions, and our infinite mindset. I read a book by Simon Sinek called Infinite Game, and it really talks about your just cause and creating this environment for your team members that all of us can be successful. So we really talk about how to challenge each other. How can we make this successful environment for our team members and each other that helps us get to that next level?
Infinite mindset.
Yeah, it's called Infinite Game is the name, but it's an infinite mindset. So you're constantly thinking about the future. You're not thinking about your short-term gains. I mean, obviously you need to do things. You still have to have your weekly and your quarterly objectives, but you're making decision for the future of the company, not for the quarter to quarter. So it's really looking at staying in the game as opposed to just winning the game. So it's constantly thinking, what does it take to stay in the game? The most important part about being in business is you want to stay in the game and have that sustainability. And so whenever we make a decision, we think about the future.
I mean, one of my questions for you was, well, I want to get back to a little bit more about Antunes, but as it relates to culture, is that something that has evolved? Is that something that you added in as one of the pillars of your culture once you kind of read that book from Sinek, or has it always been part of the Antunes story?
I think it's always been part of the story. It's just we articulated it, and Simon Sinek articulated it in his book, so we've always talked about how do we grow and how do we, we talk a lot about life balance and what is our just cause. So that's been something that's been ingrained in us from the beginning. So,
how many team members do you have here in Chicagoland?
Chicago, probably about close to 300.
Oh, wow.
And then we have another about 75 to 80 worldwide.
Okay.
So total, we usually say we have a total of about 400 team members around the world.
And what's the current way of working? Are you in person? Are you hybrid?
So mostly office is hybrid. And obviously as a manufacturing facility, we have people who have to be on site all the time. And even during COVID, we did cut back at the beginning, but very quickly, within 2 months, we had almost everybody back in the factory. And then people that are office were able to work from home. But at one point, as things were starting to open up, the executive team really came up with a bunch of guidelines to say, these departments, like IT, okay, they could be mostly remote, except we need the help desk person. Customer service could be remote, but tech service, it was better if they were in the office. So we came up with each department should have somebody in the office 2 to 3 days a week. And just recently we said, let's have 1 day a week where everyone in the office is together so we can have that collaboration. Hybrid has worked great, but we miss those conversations when you're just talking to someone or you could go over to their cube. And actually one of the things that we did with BOS's help, when we redesigned and expanded our building, we took all of the executives and took them out of offices, and everybody's in a cubicle. So you can see Glenn as the CEO, you can see the president, you can see our chief financial officer. So that's really helped with collaboration. And then we used those offices as huddle rooms. So that worked out because we didn't have enough space to have these. Sometimes a smaller meeting, we didn't need a great big conference room for 3 of us. So the offices and the huddle rooms have really been effective, a way to communicate, still be person to person.
Does each person have an assigned space at your facility?
We do.
Yeah. So we do have assigned space. It makes it easier for us to have assigned space. So.
And as you think about the future and the infinite mindset, and you plan for what does the future of work look like at Antunes, are you thinking we're good with the space that we've got, we're going to want more space, we're going to consolidate our space? What is the planning with how your team's currently working versus where you might be in a couple of years?
We need to have those conversations with our next set of leaders. I think, I am fine with the open office concept. I've always liked it. However, there are some challenges with some executives and staff that need to have more privacy, or they would like to have more privacy. It's going to be interesting, the transformation. So, one of the things we'll talk about later on is we're moving into a new facility in the next couple of years, and we're putting in new offices, and really it's going to be the next generation of leaders that is going to lay out that office space. We haven't had those conversations yet. We've had discussions, and so it'll be interesting to see what comes up. But we're open, and we're not going to be a major part of that expansion. We're going to be involved with it, but I think it's the next generation that's going to tell us what they would like in the office.
Well, the timing's good because there's a lot of companies going through that kind of transformation now. There's a lot of piloting being done and data being collected, and you'll be able to learn a lot from peers or from others that will help inform that decision for your next generation of leaderships. What have been some of the challenges as the company has grown from a people perspective in making sure that the company stays true to those core values that you mentioned, or has it not been challenging?
We talk a lot about just making sure we do the right thing, and we also make sure that we're intentional. And as one of the things we do on a regular basis, every single internal meeting and even external meeting when we meet with customers, whenever we do a presentation, the first thing we talk about is our core values and beliefs. We talk about our vision statement. So we share our vision statement at every meeting, and we always, at the beginning of the meeting, start with, okay, what's an example of one of our core values that we lived out this week? And we just share that with the team before we start the meeting. And it's a great way to start the meeting. And even with our customers, we, when we get some new salespeople in, and we tell them they have to start every meeting with our vision statement, they don't understand it. But then after they do it 2 or 3 times, they start to understand it. Just reinforces our culture. And it reinforces our culture with our customers and internally with our team members. So we're just consistent with it, and we make sure we're intentional. And there's just those little things that we do as we're walking around the building and as we're talking to our team members, that we walk our talk. So
I like that you don't take it for granted. It's not just on a wall somewhere or on an onboarding deck that gets stated, here's our vision, and let's go about our way. You're keeping it relevant and top of mind by keeping it in the conversation, like you said. Now, when you work with your global teams, is it the same way? Do you share this, kind of your vision, mission statement globally?
Yes. Yeah. It's pretty unique. When we opened up our facility in China, 20 years ago now, and they have the same vision and mission statements. We do the exact same thing before every meeting. And, now with our Chennai, India facility, we have a pretty unique situation where our team members are part of our culture. And they, just through our actions and just through our communication with them, it's worked out extremely well.
And Jane, your title is Chief Purpose Officer, and Glenn talked about purpose being one of the kind of these core pillars that's part of your mission and vision and culture. What does that role mean at Antunes, and how do you kind of view purpose-driven business? Why is that important? Like, what's the impact to the organization and the people within it?
Yes, so thanks for asking. I always love my title, and people ask, oh, I haven't heard of that. What do you do? And then I love to be able to expand on it. And I'll put a plug in for Loyola Chicago's Family Business Center. Glenn and I took a great course during COVID, and it really shaped. We were already doing a lot with purpose, but it really shaped some additional ideas. And towards the end of it, I heard that somebody at a really big corporation had a chief purpose officer title. I'm like, perfect. I want that. And at the time, we were doing a lot with philanthropy. We sell to, but support through fundraisers, an organization, an international nonprofit called Splash, splash.org international. And they bring clean water to children generally in schools. So we have been working with them since 2007. So when I wanted to become chief purpose officer, we kept looking at, well, what are we already doing? And we came up with 5 pillars: responsible culture, giving back, community involvement, product solutions, and environmental sustainability. And actually at the beginning, and even with some of the salespeople, everyone thinks of corporate social responsibility. Oh, and I used to say, Glenn makes the money, I give it away. It was about philanthropy and community involvement to a point. But the more we got into it, we really developed environmental sustainability. We've always looked to our customers for product solutions. What can we do to help you? And we've expanded that. So my role is to keep all the initiatives moving forward. We just had somebody come in and do some training, and they talked about how companies get blocked. They just kind of stop focusing on it. So actually our third generation, our daughter Sarah, works with me on the CSR sustainability side of it. And the biggest thing is we really want to integrate it into our company. How can we make sure we're moving forward with these and it's not just the fluff? So one of the quotes we heard towards the very end, again, at this seminar was, you don't want purpose to be the fumes of the engine of the business. It should be the engine of your business. And I truly was treating it like the fumes. Oh, if you have time, you might want to do this. And we're really getting the executives with, Glenn's backing. He's very strong on, we have to keep purpose uppermost in everybody's mind. How can we make a positive impact on the world? So I'll just, I said about philanthropy. We also do a lot with Northern Illinois Food Bank, which is right down the street. We have volunteer hours. We have opportunities for team members to do volunteer work during working hours, which has been great. People have really enjoyed that. But on the sustainability side, we're pretty much saying, okay, we want to reduce what goes to landfill. So instead of having plastic cups, we bought cups and dishes that have to be washed. So yes, we're using energy and water, but we're not sending things to the landfill. We're recycling and we're composting. So that was even difficult to get started because we couldn't find anyone who would pick up our composting. And so we're starting to see this with our customers. Our big chain accounts are talking about recycling. They're talking about composting. Certainly on the product side, we want to be as energy efficient as we can. And then, of course, responsible culture is huge. That wraps everything around. We have to make sure we have a really positive family atmosphere, caring community, people first. We keep talking about that. So people first culture. And recently, when we looked at our vision statement, we haven't even mentioned our 5 core values, but we put people first, passion, excellence,
integrity.
And I thought it was integrity and family. And we even expanded our family definition to say it's not just the family who owns the company. It is our entire team members are family, including China and India. And we want to prepare future generations. We're hoping that my father's legacy, our legacy, continues for many generations.
That's very cool. The work you're doing with Splash, one of your products is water filtration, right? And
right.
You talked about the food bank, and another one of your products is kitchen, and so I think it's pretty neat that you're tying your philanthropy to what the business does in a meaningful way. I'm interested when you when you have conversations with your customers, your clients, I think it's clear that what you're doing will make an impact internally with your team. Have you seen that it makes a difference externally as well?
Sometimes it does. They still go back to, when I say energy efficient, they kind of perk up. But truthfully, our products are so almost very small amount of the electricity they use in a restaurant. But the whole idea, certainly responsible culture, sustainability is starting to really make an impact. So we keep pushing it out there and saying that it's really our competitive advantage.
All of our customers are talking about sustainability.
Right.
They're all talking about, CSR and that. And it hasn't created the same type of momentum that it has with us. However, it does allow our customers to see us moving in that direction. We talk a lot about succession planning and how we continue to grow, that we're going to be around for a while, and it helps them feel comfortable with working with us.
Yeah, that was my question more, is usually a chief purpose officer, or the amount of attention that you give to purpose at your organization, I've found that it's either reserved for huge companies that can have a division that does it, but overall, compared to the rest of the company, it's not that big of a division, right? Or not-for-profits, that's what they do.
Exactly.
So a company of your size that makes it the engine, not the fumes, or at least intends to, it seems like that would resonate with customers. That, right now, ESG and sustainability, and those are top discussion points in a lot of the conversations we're having on this show and with our clients. So I can imagine if you're going out to market and trying to find business, and that's important to customers, maybe they're not doing it to the level that you are, but you can show that you've been working with Splash for 20 years, it's been part of your business before it was trendy and cool to have it be part. I think that would resonate, and people would see that as genuine and a value in a partner.
They definitely see it as genuine, and that we're very committed to it. And it is my position. So I'm the spokesman, and I say spokesperson. I am the spokesperson for the company to show the many things we're doing. And as Glenn mentioned, sometimes when the salespeople come on, they're like, what is this? But we've definitely won over our salespeople that, hey, this is for real. And again, just like our vision statement, it's not just words on the wall. We really do live it. And when it's really the whole idea of tracking it, that's been difficult. And moving things forward when there's a bunch of other things going on. How can we push it out? And we've really seen the traction both internally and, and our customers are starting to understand it, actually, especially in water. Because for a long time with the water side of it, customers weren't even tracking how much water are we using, how much are we spending on throwing cartridges away. And the more we push about it and keep sharing awareness, it's like, wait a minute, we're probably spending more money than we need to.
What are we doing today that's going to affect the future? And just having that mindset that, we talk a lot about our just cause with our team members, creating making the world a better place, and creating the enhancement of food and water for everyone around the world is what we talk about. And just having that just cause that people can rally around, and that we can share that with our customers. It's really hard to I'll just say document the revenue gains from having a purpose champion, and but it just keeps on building on itself, and eventually that generates extra engagement, extra partnerships that'll last for many years.
And actually, it also helps the bottom line. So we are not a nonprofit. We do work for a profit. And what we found is by reducing the waste, how much the bottom line hits. We started really tracking how much water are we using. and said, hey, we really don't need to have the sprinkler on this part. How can we reduce that? And and Glenn's used the word intentional a few times, just by being intentional to say, let's look at our waste, just in general, waste. Unbelievable how much money we've saved. And we also have solar panels on the new part of our our roof. And we use about 12%. So for those of you who are not in the Chicago area, most of the time it's cloudy here. So it's about 10 to 12% of the energy usage. We generate that through the solar panels.
Helped put together a panel for an organization yesterday, and it featured some of the top kind of influencers on Chicago and how decisions get made and attracting businesses to the city and tourism, the mayor's office. And it was interesting. They talked about how important it is for us to share the positive stories of our city and how we all have a responsibility to do that, because it's easy to focus on negative things, and it's easy to focus on, or in business, it's easy to get caught up in how we're going to, grow the bottom line and generate the revenue goals that we need to. But I think the other piece of this purpose is being able to share the story and talk about it and have something positive to feel good about with your own team members, but also with your customers, with eventual partners. What doors is that going to open? I think that's another big component of this, is doing the work and then using it and then talking about it and sharing the story so that you're an example for others, because
oh my gosh, exactly. That's what we say all the time, is that we want to be leaders. We want to let other people know what we're doing, and that it's not that hard to get started.
Yeah.
And
it's just getting started.
It is just getting started.
Just start.
And use the products that you make. First of all, what makes sense for your company? You don't have to go out, and change the world somewhere else. It's like, what products, what services, what can you do to help with purpose? So we're really excited about it. That's a huge area. And any seminar, any book you read, it's all about it. It has to have ownership and executive support. And we do. And that's been fantastic.
Wonderful. Let's talk about learning for a minute. You guys were both teachers, and you met as teachers. You just attended a seminar at Loyola. You're still learning,
Exactly.
Talk about creating a culture of learning. What are the key kind of ingredients for success in that regard?
It's one of our KPI, key performance indicators. Learning is a major part of it. And you might have heard the same information over and over again, but it's the thought stimulation that whenever you go to a seminar, whenever you're in a meeting, or whenever you're learning something, it's that thought stimulation that helps you grow. And so we talk a lot about how it's not specific training, as long as you're doing some type of knowledge gathering. It's not so much about the training, it's really about that knowledge stimulation. So we do have KPIs. We require all of our team members to do at least 30 hours of training a year. And the other thing that we added a couple years ago, because we wanted everyone to be part of the training, so we could have, we were meeting our 30 hours on average, but then we noticed there was, several team members that had 2 or 3 hours, and so we said, in order for us to meet our KPIs, everyone has to have a minimum of 10 hours. So if you can imagine, all 300 team members have to do some type of training, which is not that hard to do, but it's the recording of those hours too. So making sure that we recorded. And our bonuses, we have bonuses that if we hit these numbers, there's a bonus at the end of the quarter, at the end of the year. So we do back that up from a financial point of view. Other things that we do tuition reimbursements for all of our team members. So if they want to take classes, we have an apprenticeship program. We have in-house leadership training courses on a quarterly basis. We have an internship program. So we have usually anywhere between 10 and 15 interns every summer that come in and work in various departments. We do ESL classes. A couple years ago, we created a scholarship for our team members' children. So we give out 4 scholarships a year for 4 students to pay for their college for the next 4 years. Not all of it. It's $20,000 scholarship.
Wow.
So for 4 students every year. So, we continually just encourage and support the learning culture. And it's not just, here again, it's not just something we say, we actually financially support it. So
That's wonderful. That's a lot of examples. Do you find, that's what you originally went to school for. You guys both were teachers. Do you find yourselves certain times within your work kind of drawing on some of the, some of the qualities of a teacher?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So one of the things I didn't mention is, so what I started this year, so I'm actually doing a leadership training class internally.
Okay.
So I just asked if people wanted to sign up. So it's an 8-series curriculum. So I created a lesson plan.
Really?
For 8 series. It's a year long, and so 45 team members signed up for it, and they come in, and there's some reading assignments, and there's some, they have to give a presentation, and there's book reviews, and team activities. So it's just an opportunity to go back to my roots a little bit and do teaching in the workplace. And we're doing teaching on a daily basis anyway.
Yeah.
But this is a more structured classroom setting, so that's been a lot of fun.
We tell everyone that being teachers and an education background is fantastic for managing a company. People learn differently. People are motivated differently. People have different personalities that have to work together. So it's been really beneficial for our background. And it really does go back, even when my dad started, our first team members were all from Mexico and did not speak English very well. And we had ESL classes way back and have just certainly continued that. But I want to bring up one of the things that makes this our culture of learning work is technology. Every time a new HR person comes in, they're like, oh, well, we're going to get this figured out. We're going to record our learning. And it never worked until we really got IT involved to say, so we have an intranet site. We use SharePoint. And our IT department made it easy to enter your learning hours. And we constantly encourage people, enter your learning hours, enter your volunteer hours. We want to record it, and we celebrate it. And as Glenn said, we have bonuses because of it. And we have individual development plans that say, if this is your career, well, then what are you doing in terms of your learning hours? So believe it or not, technology has increased our culture of learning besides the emphasis that Glenn and the executives always put on it, to say, what's going on with this department? Why don't you have enough training hours? Oh, we do it. Well, then enter it. So you have to make things easy. You know what? I'll just go back real quick with recycling, composting. Everything. You have to make it easy. People want to do it. People want to learn, but you have to make it easy for them to record it, and so we can celebrate and measure it.
You, I think, as an organization, have more in-house development and learning from a structured perspective than I would guess other organizations of your size. Is most of the recorded learning done with these in-house programs, or do people also go outside of Antunes to find professional development?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say, we utilize, we have instructors that come down from McHenry Community College that do our apprenticeship training. So we have about 60 team members that are involved with different aspects of operations in our facility. So that's all in-house, and that's all during working hours. So that's a large portion of our training for our team members. I would say, if I had to put a number to it, I bet you only 10 to 15% of our training is done outside of work hours, external. We do have a couple team members that, have gotten their master's degree or their bachelor's degree that we've supported. And obviously people go to seminars and conferences that we consider as part, if there's speakers in that's all part of learning. So, but I think most of our training, the leadership training is all done in-house. The internship when we do training, that's in-house.
We've brought in some training for managers and supervisors, and we continually stress, you want to be promoted, if you want to be the line leader, if you want to be the supervisor, the manager, be ready. Take these courses, start getting ready, let your manager know, I'm interested in this. As a smaller company, it's harder to cross-train in the office. We do a lot of training in the factory about cross-training on products. But we also encourage job shadowing. If say, hey, I want to move from this department to the other, well, learn to see if you like it. But definitely the courses that Glenn was talking about, be ready for that next opening.
And it sounds like you're leveraging the community too. We talked before we started recording about working with DuPage County. You've mentioned Loyola. You talked about McHenry. I think there's
good point.
I mean, you're leveraging that education systems in your community to empower your own in-house training. I think that's cool.
Yeah, what's really nice about the internship program that we have is getting these college students, and then we have a program with local high schools through DuPage school districts, where we have high school students come in and actually are hands-on. They don't just come in and just sit at the desk and push a pencil. They actually get involved with the projects. They actually do some of the accounting practices. They actually do a couple sales calls with our, just shadow some of our salespeople. So we do have these programs that bring the community together. And what's nice is our team gains just as much knowledge as I think some of the interns, because the interns bring in new ideas, new thoughts. So it helps our team to, think a little differently as well.
Let's wrap this up with you guys giving me what your definition of. I've got a couple of extra questions at the end, but as it relates to culture and purpose and learning, we've talked about all these great components, I think, that combine to create a great place to work. But from your perspective, how do you define a great place to work at Antunes?
I think feeling comfortable, wanting to come to work, certainly believing that there's a purpose to why I come to work and not only what my company is doing, but what am I doing to make the world a positive place to work? Just wanting to make it enjoyable and where you feel safe and comfortable.
You've heard the DEI discussions in that, and we talk about people say you should have DEI as a strategy, and what we say is DEI is part of who we are. We want to have a diverse group. We don't need a strategy. That's who we are. We're intentional about diversity. We're intentional about equity. We're intentional about inclusion. And I think one of the biggest opportunities we have as a company is the inclusion part. Because if you bring team members in and they don't feel like they're part of the team, it doesn't matter how much diversity you try to create. If they don't feel included, then they're not going to stay. So I think we have a big opportunity as a company to focus a little bit more on inclusion. I think we focus a lot on the other aspects, but I think it's important for the people, when they come to a facility, to come into a group, that it's a major part of their life to be in that building. And so how do we make them feel inclusive? How do we make the environment as safe and engaging as possible? And that's what we think about a lot. How do we do that?
Well put. A couple questions at the end now. These can be a little bit more personal or professional, your choice, but has there been a resource that's been valuable to you guys in your career, whether as teachers or as business leaders, that you might recommend to others? Book, podcast, group, seminar, your pick.
I've been involved with several groups. I really liked my Vistage group, if you've ever heard of Vistage.
Yeah.
I thought that was a great group to be a part of. I'm involved with industry group called, It's Food Equipment Manufacturers Association. We call it FEMA, but it's not the FEMA that most people think about. But it's Food Equipment Manufacturers Association. I would just recommend being engaged with any type of association or group that is not too big that, you don't have that personal connection with. But, Vistage is a group of anywhere from maybe 10, 15, maybe 18 business people. Our FEMA group is a group of about 12 family ownerships in the food service industry. With education, I mean, since I've started, being involved, since I graduated from college, I think I've taken at least one college type of course every single year for the last 40 years.
Wow.
So, and it's not important for me to have an MBA, but it's just taking those courses that create thought processes. So,
yeah, like you said before, it's not even so much what you're learning there; it's that you're exercising your learning muscle. Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. So Glenn mentioned Simon Sinek in the book Infinite Game. Great book. We've read many of the other business ones. But I'm going to mention a book that I don't think anyone at the company has read it. Sarah's supposed to be reading it. But it is called Do Good at Work, Job Purposing by B. Buck Alandro. She has a great TED Talk, quick one. But it's about finding purpose, doing things in your daily job that help with purpose. It gives you purpose. It helps the company. It just makes you feel good about it. So one of the things we have at work, we have a bulletin board that has amazing job awards, AJA. Our company uses the symbol AJA. And you put things on there. So you write it out and you recognize a team member. Anybody can do it. It's not just managers. And then you give one slip to the team member and thank them for what they've done. And then you put the second part on the board. And yes, we have an electronic version, so we're not consuming paper. But it is neat to see it on the board and read those. And it's things like, thank you for always smiling. Thank you for helping out when I needed it. Thank you for finding that quality error. So we didn't send something out. And at our monthly communication meeting, I read through those, give some examples. And those are some of the small things that Bea talks about in her book. There's some big things you can do, but it's what can one person do, or maybe pull a group together to say, what can we do to really make our job, make us feel like we have purpose in what we're doing? And so that, I love her book. And it's just a real interesting, again, just get those ideas stimulated. We are doing a lot, but maybe we could be doing more, a little differently.
Well, it's relevant in what you're talking about before, where on a global scale, what Antunes is doing for the environment and for sustainability is
right.
a drop in the bucket, but you're doing it, and it's and that's going to inspire others. So, when doing good at work, it might be a small little change to a policy or a small little program you put in place.
Right.
It doesn't have to be big, but it can make a big difference.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. So, I really like my K-Cups, and I say I'm changing the world one K-Cup at a time. We recycle them. I hope they recycle them. They tell me that they do. Our environmental manager said, well, how about if we just get rid of all the K-Cups? It's like, no. So what can we do? Something you really like, but what can we do to help with recycling? And yes, we know it's a drop in the bucket, but you know what? Boy, so George, when you were in school, you were just learning about recycling. Nobody recycled. Now it's become a thing. Before it was just, some people were recycling. Now, usually your recycling bin has more in it than your garbage.
That's
so
right.
Little bit at a time, the next generation will really pull this forward.
And the ripples from that drop can make an impact, right?
Yep.
Something you're looking forward to in the year ahead. I know you've got a new space coming up that's a couple years ahead.
Yep.
So we can extend out if you like, but
no, that's one of the things that excites me the most, or excites me a lot. Our new campus that we're building. It's always been our vision or my vision about building a campus for the team members in the community. So the project will be about a 10-year project. It's not something that we'll do overnight. We should break ground this spring or in the fall. Our first phase is a 100,000 square foot building, and we'll have a test kitchen and a showroom and an innovation lab. And then we'll still maintain our facility in Carroll Stream. We have a 170,000 square foot building in Carroll Stream. But our goal is to finish phase 1 at the fall of 2025, and then phase 2, add on to the manufacturing, 250,000 square foot to the manufacturing, and then put the office spaces in, probably in 2027 or so. So that'll be added on. But in addition to that, that's when we really start expanding the campus. So as phase 2, we're putting an activity center around the manufacturing facility. So the activity center we're actually house. It'll house our food court. So we have 3 different types of food concepts. We have a grocery store, we have a wellness gym, and we have a health clinic as part of the phase 2.
Wow.
And then we're also putting in what we're calling a retreat center. So a hotel, so to speak. So where guests from international guests, local guests can come in. But in all that, the retreat center can be used by the community, the grocery store, the food court, everything else, the wellness center, the clinic can be used by the community as well. And then in addition, when we add on the manufacturing, we have geothermal pumps, heat pumps for heating and cooling the facility. We have solar panels, and then we're putting a vertical farm on the roof as well for team members to grow. And we're hoping, this is all dreams. We don't know how well this is going to work, but we're hoping some of that food that we grow on the roof can also be sold in the grocery store. So it's to have this campus that can generate activities for our team members and the community around. And then the next phase after that, we want to put in an auditorium and a daycare and a K through 8 private school on our campus as well.
So you're building a small town.
Right. Yeah.
That is a lot to look forward to.
So that's one of the things that's going to keep me busy for the next 10 years. So.
I just thinking about what you said, we even haven't mentioned we have a advocate clinic that is open 2 days a week for our team members. We have a gym right now that's being used, and we don't have anything to do with food, even though we manufacture the equipment. We haven't done much with that, so we're excited about the food court. So I think for me, probably the biggest thing is the fact that we are creating jobs for people. That's always been a big thing. I know that was a big thing for my dad. Jobs, yeah. And the other thing I'll just say that just watching the company that my dad started and Glenn has expanded and enhanced for sure, and how that company can be a leader in the industry. I mean, we love doing these type of podcasts or spreading the word that we do have manufacturing in the United States and in the Midwest. And yes, we're profitable and we could do good. We can make a positive impact.
Wonderful.
And I think that's the main part. I mean, the way we're going to be able to accomplish this campus is we have to keep growing as a company. It's exciting to think about how we're expanding into the global market and our international expansion and everything else we're doing. But we can only do it as we continue to grow. So.
Oh, I have to put a word in for our oldest, our daughter, is very excited about this project. She really is pushing for the daycare and school, but also is highly involved with the sustainability side of it.
The whole campus.
So 2 of our daughters involved with that.
When you talk about the next generation of leadership at your business and that they'll play a role in shaping this and the future of growth and that infinite mindset, as you make that transition, what's a piece of advice you'll tell them?
Oh gosh. Yeah, we talk a lot about we've started programs for that next group of leaders, the succession planning. So we've done a lot of work with succession planning, and we actually created Vistage has an in-house Vistage program. So our next set of leaders for the last 2 years have been going through, has had a Vistage facilitator and taking having the speakers come in and everything else that Vistage is all a part of. So, but it's really just understanding what's, we're here as stewards, and to have that great leaders have to be humble and transparent and open for collaboration. So we talk a lot about how you treat people and how you create this environment. So trying to transfer all that thought process down to the next generation. I think we've done a good job of doing that, but only time will tell. So
I think we just really want to make sure that the legacy of a caring community continues. It's not all about profit. It's not all about getting ahead. We would certainly hate if people thought of us as a corporation that we're just climbing the ladder. So my advice is really to develop and strengthen your direct reports instead of focusing on getting ahead. If you're focusing on your direct reports, you will be noticed and hopefully advanced. But if you're only out there for, I want to get to that next level, you're just going to fall behind.
There's been a lot of wisdom in this conversation. Thank you both for sharing it. It's been such a pleasure to speak to both of you, and thank you for the relationship we've had for all these years.
Yeah.
And I look forward to watching as Antunes expands into that 10-year vision. That's very, very exciting. So thanks for coming out and being on the podcast.
Oh, thanks, George. Thanks for asking us.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this conversation, please take a moment to rate our show. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the Work Inspired podcast so that you don't miss any of the incredible guests we have planned for upcoming episodes. We'll continue to find the best and brightest minds in business so that you can learn, grow, and succeed, and so that we can all work inspired. Work Inspired is brought to you by BOS, a leader in commercial working environments and a Hayworth best-in-class dealership. Experience our 360 approach and discover the team, tools, and techniques required to navigate the complexity of your next workspace at BOS.com. If you have ideas, feedback, or would like to be featured on our show, please email podcast@BOS.com. Thank you for listening. This has been a Workspace digital production. If you're interested in launching a podcast at your organization, please email info@workspace.digital for a free consultation.